Welcome to the SubHub podcast. I'm MK Sullivan.
And I'm Dani Moreno. And today we are covering the Sky Masters, which is the Merrell World Skyrunner Series final. I believe this is the last series final of the year, which is really exciting. And if you have been tuning into the SubHub, it's been a long year for the Skyrunner World Series. So we are really excited to see these athletes compete in their final showdown to see who's going to win that overall Skyrunner World Series crown. That is a mouthful. All of them are a mouthful now that I think about it.
I know. And was there was almost 30 races this year in the series, right? It felt
Uh,
like more than that. It felt like it was like every weekend since April, but I know that's not true.
20
But
races.
20 races. It felt like more. It's been a
Wait,
long season for Skyrunner.
four, what's four times one, two, three, four? Yeah, it's 20.
Oh man.
Math. Yeah, 20 races. That's been a long go. We were talking a little bit about, like, at least offline, the pros and cons of having so many races. The pros are it does open a lot of opportunity for athletes around the world. I mean, these races, this is probably the most global series. Well, UTMB is also pretty global at this point.
Yeah. Um, but I think that I still think this is more global possibly because they have I'm just trying to think. UTMB, no, UTMB also has a race in Korea. So probably pretty similar to be honest, and similar amount of races as well. The only difference being that with UTMB races you only have to run really one race to qualify if you finish high enough, whereas with a Skyrunner race you have to race four races to qualify. So about the same amount of global, but you do have to go to more races to qualify.
Yeah, that's true. To get to like the
The
ultimate,
final.
the final. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like MK just said, it is a lot of options to run. And then as we will get into, the final is the longest final. Again, I don't know how it compares. Well, to your point with UTMB, you could be one and done, but that is the minority. Like a vast majority of people are collecting stones throughout the year and then going through the lottery. Um, but for those folks that are, focused on this sport from a professional standpoint, this is a rough final, but it's going to be beautiful at the same time.
Yeah, the course looks great. It looks like a great area, but it is 43K with 30 almost 4,000 meters, like around 13,000 feet of gain in the middle of November, and this season started beginning of April. So, um we noticed in looking at some of the athletes that some of the top 20 athletes are not competing in this final, and it kind of makes sense if they've been competing in any other, series throughout the year.
Yeah, it seems that the athletes that were just focused on this final, though, are all showing up. Um, Probably like 95% of them. So if their goal is to get athletes to commit to their series, it seems like they're doing a good job of attracting those athletes that do want to solely focus on this. But before we get into all of the fun of qualifying and information around this final, just to back it up a little bit, MK, how is your break going?
It's a break. It took myself a lot of time to convince myself that I needed to be done racing and I needed to just take a break. 'Cause yeah, trail season, man, it's just too long. I've been training since like last December for Black Canyon. So, yeah, it was much needed. And it's funny, I went for a run yesterday, which was a week after the race, and I didn't even want to run. I just did it because the dogs hadn't run in a while. And as soon as I started, I was like, oh, I'll run like 4 miles. And then I was like, I'm maybe gonna make it to 3 miles. I'm just gonna do whatever this loop is, and then I'm just gonna go home. And the loop was exactly 3 miles. But I am bored, but I think it's a good thing to be a little bit bored right now. So
Yeah.
I'm usually not, chilling like this.
I feel like boredom is a lost art.
Yeah, I'm bad at it. I've been reading a lot of books, which
That's great. That's
is
really
good.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. Um, yeah, I feel that in today's society, it's hard to be comfortable with being bored.
Being bricked out of social media on my break, it's been really hard. I'm like sitting on the couch. I'm just like, maybe I should just open Instagram. My phone's like, nope. You got to go stand under the stairs in secret to do that if you want. And I'm not going to do that.
I love that.
So
Maybe you'll get into like puzzles or DIYing or something.
I keep saying that I need to like order a big crossword book or something and get into crosswords because I've been really enjoying that lately, but I haven't done that. I've just, yeah, just been reading like so many books. Tommy comes home, he's like, "Are you gonna read or are you gonna talk to me?" I'm like, "Well, I have been like really into this like most of the day today, so I kind of want to finish this chapter."
Okay, what was the last book that you read?
I'm reading a series right now called Green Creek, and the first one is called Wolf Song. It's like a werewolf book, but that's what I'm currently reading. And then I'm on the last book, so what's up next is The Ministry of Time, I believe, is what I have on
Cool.
my Kindle. So,
Sick.
yeah. How are you doing? How's coming back from injury? My life's like meh right now, boring, you know?
It's like, I don't know. It was a little hard. I think I had like a little bit of a pity party for a couple of days because I just want to be able to run and I'm tired of this really slow build, you know? I just want to full send it. And each time I take a step up, my foot gets sore, which is exactly what they told me would happen. But even so, it's just not fun. Like, you're
And a
like,
little
I don't know.
nerve-wracking.
It's nerve-wracking, yeah,
Yeah.
but it was the same thing. I did a back-to-back, two back-to-back runs last week, and I did 40 minutes in an hour. And that was like, that was my first hour. And my foot was sore for 2 days when it's normally been sore for 1 day. So, but otherwise, I've been really good. Once today, I felt fine again, and then I went for another run, which was cool. It's really funny because my heart rate is so freaking high every time I run, and I'm just like, it doesn't feel that hard, but my heart rate says I'm like in zone 4, zone 5. I'm just really out of shape or something. But I've been doing strides, and those have actually been my I don't know, like pleasant surprise because my speed is still there. I mean, it's only 15 seconds or whatever, but it makes me feel so happy because when I'm left to my own devices, I really like running for 20 minutes and then just racing a shit ton. But over the years, I've realized like you need to train more if you want to like be better and stuff. But yeah, I'm like, oh, can I race like next month? That's not going to happen. But yeah, that's pretty much a summary. Oh, and we got our first snow, which is really exciting.
Yeah, we got a little bit of snow too. Mount Rose Ski Resort opened like just one run last week and it looked so bad, but it is really exciting to get snow. But yeah, I have a feeling that there's just gonna be like a week, like maybe 2, 3 weeks from now, where all of a sudden you're just like, oh, I feel normal again, like fitness wise. Because I feel like right now you're just in like the Bambi legs phase, you know?
Totally. Yeah. Big Bambi legs. And yeah, I mean, you know how it goes. You just want to like be there, but this is the most important and probably the most lesson learning the gray area. I'm black or white. I've always been that way, like no matter what. So the gray area is really uncomfortable, but I know it's like where you grow the most. Because before, honestly, it was pretty easy. It's like, well, I can't do anything anyways. But yeah, that is my very subtle way of being things are going well. But
Slowly but surely.
slowly but surely. So let's get into this Skyrunner World Series. We're going to give you a bunch of info, talk about the course, get you hype about the athletes who are taking to the start. But before we do so, here's a message regarding one of our partnerships. Hey guys, Dani here. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at Never Second. They quickly have gained popularity in the endurance world for their gels and powders, which feature a modular system that makes it super easy to customize your fuel intake, whether you need 30, 60, or 90 grams of carbs per hour. Personally, I love their products because they're easy to digest, they help me stay fueled during my cross training and running sessions, and the mix and match flavors keep things fun and fresh. If you want to try Never Second, head over to neversecond.com. That's NEVER number 2.com and use SubHub25 for 25% off your order.
So welcome back. We are going to talk about how do you qualify for this race. Danny and I had to go over it a couple times just to make sure that we had it down to explain it to you guys. But yeah, again, last final of the year this weekend in Spain for Sky Masters. And this is how we understand it as qualification as of right now. Um, so there are a handful of ways to qualify, and I apologize to you guys because my dogs are playing underneath my feet. So if you can hear that, hopefully you enjoy dog sounds. Um, you have to finish in the top 20 in a sky race or a premier sky race. And that's male or female. So top 20 male, top 20 female. You have to complete at least 4 Skyrunner World Series races to get that qualification. So completed 4 Skyrunner races and you were in the top 20 in those races. The other options are top 3 in a nominated Skyrunner National Series country race. I'm actually not sure what those were, if we're being honest, but yeah, top 3 in a national series race, top 3 in the final ranking of your Skyrunner National Series, top 3 in a Skyrunner Continental Championship, or finish top 3 in the Skyrunner World Championships, which I do know those happened in Spain this year because we sent a team as the US. So, yeah, those are your options. I think most people are qualifying out of the finishing 4 sky races in the top 20.
Yeah, it seems that the Skyrunner National Series, we didn't have one in the US this year. So if you're American and listening to this, I mean, like, how did I miss that? You didn't miss anything. We didn't have any. They had them in Austria, Brazil, Bulgaria, France, Italy, Japan, Korea, Portugal, Spain, and then UK and Ireland. We have had them in the past. I think it truly takes someone to just like contact Skyrunner and put them on. I am a former national series champion, just saying. But yeah, it's it's kind of like what Golden Trail World Series does too. Like to get to their World Series, they have the World Series and then they have the National Series also as an input. Um, Aside from that, there is also wild card entries, which it appears that we only see one, and that is a former champion. Um, but I'm going to take this as if an athlete, it's their way of being transparent that if there's an athlete on the start line that didn't participate in the series, they have the right to invite them. So, I would say if an athlete had a high enough ranking, there's a good chance they can get an invite to this race. And they probably have done a Skyrunner World Series race before. But they give free entries to the top 20, and then top 3 males from Skyrunning Continental Championships and top 3, sorry, male and female, and then male and female from the World Championships. And then 50% discounts to the rest of the folks. Yeah, and then aside from being entered in the World Series, there's 2 events happening this weekend. There's the Sky Masters, which is the senior event, and then there is also the U23 final.
Yes, and the U23 final is essentially the half marathon race at this race, Marató dels Dements, which is a race in Spain. And we were looking over the course, the half marathon, or I guess it would be a 21K or whatever, is called the Mitia Dine. I'm probably saying that terribly wrong, but Julia Font ran this back in 2018 and she won it in it was like 2:39. Um, so both of these courses are races that already exist. They just get the label of a Skymaster this year.
Yes. Yeah, which is cool. It's
Yeah.
cool and they utilize races that already exist. Um, but that is how you get into this race. So if it seems like the field is on the smaller side, that is why. And then aside from gaining entry, these athletes are also signed up for mega points, but also their shot at gaining a lot of money on the day because there's two prize purses. There's the overall prize purse for athletes who have, again, competed in at least 4 events throughout the year. And then there's also prize money for the standalone race itself. So if you are a wild card person or you don't finish in the top 10 overall ranking, say you finish 13th, 14th, you still have a chance if you place high enough on race day to get that money. This prize money, we're not going to go over all the numbers, but just to give you an idea, the top 3 for overall, first place is 20,000 euros, second place is 12,000 euros, third place is 5,000 euros, and then it goes all the way down to 10th.
Yeah, and that's for the overall season ranking. And then for the race is first is 2,500, second is 2K, and third is 1K. And then they pay all the way down through 10th as well.
Yeah, and we love to see it. There is going to be some doping control. It's not clear if it is in line with WADA doping controls, but it does say that there is going to be stuff, and then the athletes will receive the prize money after those have been verified.
Yes, we love doping control. I hope it's something along the lines of like USADA and WADA.
Yeah.
I don't think that courts is a thing anymore, so
Yeah.
it's got to be something good, hopefully. But yeah, so the course, we're mostly going to focus on the Sky Masters. The U23 race, as we said, is also happening, but we're going to focus on the 43K. So this race is happening in Alcira, Valencia, Spain. It's a 43K with 3,800 meters, which is about 12,500 feet of gain. Um, it we found a couple of YouTube videos, one of them being an hour and 10 minutes long, so we kind of scooted through that to see, just what the course looks like. For the most part, seems like pretty good trail. Like a little rocky for sure, Rudy in some places, but not as much like scrambling, I think, as we're used to seeing with some of these sky races.
Yeah, it looks like a really nice course, and it looks like MK said, because there's not as much scrambling, the trail looks very clear, like it's a trail that's been used many, many a times. Looking on Strava, there's segments everywhere, which makes us think that these are high trafficked trails, especially because it's kind of in the southern eastern part of Spain, almost on the coast. So we can only imagine that many trail runners go and run there. And then you also just take a couple cruises through the town as well, and it looks like there's some folks outside in the videos that we've already seen. Um, but as far as the course goes, it's 43K with approximately almost 13,000 feet of climbing.
Yeah, so the world's course in Austria last year was similar in terms of distance and vert. So we kind of did some estimating based off of those times as well as times from last year. The winning time on the men's side was 5:22 last year, the women's 6:38. We think that based on UTMB indexes and other results, that the men will probably end up finishing in under 5 hours and the women will finish somewhere around 6 hours.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's safe to say. Um, and how do you get all that gain? Well, roughly broken down, there's 2 1,000-foot climbs, 2 2,000-foot climbs and descents, and then there's a couple more 1,000-foot climbs, and then another descent. So constantly climbing and descending. But these runners are going to be ready. I mean, if you've been following our content or just the Skyrunner World Series Instagram at all, you can see that these folks do a lot of climbing and descending on really steep terrain. So
Yeah.
it's going to be really cool to see this race.
Yeah, it seems a little relentless. I mean, especially because it's one of the longer races in the series, or is the longest race of the series so far. Like a lot of these races that we see have like maybe 1 to 3 big climbs and descents. So to have, 6 separate climbs on the day, it'll be interesting to see just like how people handle it. Does somebody go out too hard and totally blow up because they've just underestimated that fifth and sixth climb?
Yeah, or like, I don't know. I feel that at this point, there's probably a handful of athletes who are peaking for this race, and then another handful of athletes who are kind of like holding on to fitness, summer fitness. And so do you just go out and like no one catches you because they just don't have those gears anymore?
Yeah.
Um, Another thing to note before we get into the athletes, to kind of go along with this terrain, is that it's supposed to be raining a little bit throughout this week, but then coming into the weekend, it actually looks pretty warm, almost 70 degrees. So I would imagine it being southern Spain, it potentially could still be a little bit humid. Um,
But
yeah,
the trails are probably going to be pretty dry still, I would
yeah.
imagine.
Well, they might be like, it says 80% humidity on Saturday.
Oof.
It actually might be nice and like packed down
Yeah,
from it. Yeah.
interesting. Well,
Dang.
so should we? Well, I guess first, before we get into the athletes that are running this race, here is another message from our sponsor.
Hey y'all, it's MK. If you've seen me out on the trail or at a race this season, you've probably seen me rocking the Pit Viper Admirers. These heart-shaped glasses have been my go-to for a look good, feel good attitude on race day and just in training. Not only do they make me look way cooler than I am, but they come at an affordable price and they come in a style for any personality or mood you might be having. Pit Vipers are the sunglasses sunglasses would wear if sunglasses could wear sunglasses. If you want to run in style, go to the link in our show notes for 15% off your next Pit Viper purchase. See you out on Party Mountain.
All right. Let's get into these athletes. One thing is for sure, once when MK and I were going through these results, it does seem that this year more of the athletes were committed to this series than I would say in past years, which is kind of interesting considering that the race series races themselves increased. But yeah, just looking at the results, there weren't too many crossovers of people doing Golden Trail and Balsier World Mountain Running Cup. Yeah, a lot of folks focused on this one.
Yeah, it feels like really the only athlete who did, or athletes, I guess, who did both were like Julia Font and Roberto De Lorenzi, up front. They did some Golden Trail and some sky running, but I do think that the increase in prize money for the final as well as just like regular season races probably has a big um push, towards why these athletes are actually focusing on it. Because if you're racing athletes that are racing other series, like you're likely less tired than them, come up and get, I don't know, what's the top, isn't first place like 2,500 all year round? So if are finishing like Roberto first twice, like there's $5,000 that you probably wouldn't have made at Golden Trail because you were finishing like fifth or sixth.
Yeah, yeah. It is kind of interesting because at least following the Skyrunner World Series, it did seem that, we talk about Skyrunner being the most technical as like series in general, it is. But also within the realm of technicality, there is a spectrum of athletes who like, say, like Matterhorn Extreme
Yeah.
versus Tours de Jean, I think, or Gorgeous de Tar. Oh, gosh, how do you
Gorgeous Dutarn. Yeah, that one was
yeah,
super
it was
runnable.
like more runnable, right? Like it was still technical. So like there's a spectrum with that you see some athletes, really pick the most technical races and get their points there. And then you have also athletes like Karina Carsolio, her two wins were at two of the highest elevation races. So she probably was like, living at high altitude in Mexico is like, why wouldn't I choose Peru and Mexico where I'm running at like 10,000 feet?
Yeah. And like
So
Hillary Girardi like tends to do really well at the longer distances compared to like the, 30K. She's winning the 50K, the 34, the 42, like stuff like that.
yeah, I mean, she's a Swiss Army knife, but
Yeah.
she like those long mountain days, she just has that down
Yeah.
to a craft. It's crazy. Um, but let's first get into the women. I'm really excited about this race because now following the Skyrunner World Series for a couple of years more closely, um, these you could just there's some really strong athletes in this, and every now and then like an athlete, surprises us. Um, First and foremost, we'll start kind of at the lower end of the rankings, but still all very close. We have Celia Balcells. She is a Spanish athlete running for FEEC. She's currently in 20th. And then we're missing 19th, 18th, 16th, and 17th on the rankings. But then we have Ingrid Mutter, who's a Romanian athlete running for Scarpa, and her highest finish was third at Honchkingen. And then we have Ariadna, yeah, that's correct. Fenes running for Andorra, and she runs for Team FOM, and she had 1 win this year at Sky Race du Mercantour.
Our 12th ranked woman is Olivia Magnone from France. She runs for Esclaps d'Azun. That's an interesting team
I know,
name.
these are new teams for me.
Yeah, I know. Classic like European trail running. Like they have actual teams instead of just like brands. Her highest finish this year was second at the Matterhorn Ultrax in uh, um August. Yeah, I was gonna say. Marcela Vasanova is 11th. She's a Czech athlete. You've probably heard us talk about her before if you've been listening to the pod for a while. Her highest finish being second at the Ethanon Sky Race, very recently, actually. In 10th place, we have Iris Pessy. She is a French favorite running for Scott Running. She won MCC this year, which is the locals race at UTMB week. And she was second at Hochkonigmann. And she's had a couple of other top 5 finishes this year. Despite
Yeah.
coming back from like, didn't she break an elbow or something last year?
She had some sort of injury, but I think she won last year or was very close. She had some
Yeah.
wins last year. She might have not ended up winning overall. But Iris is a frequent on the Skyrunner World Series, so
Yeah.
exciting to see her back out there. Next, we have another French athlete. She's currently ranked 8th. Her name is Lucille Jaman. She runs for Team Cetus Matrix. If you don't know them, they had more athletes the last couple years. I think they've disbanded a little bit and athletes have gone to other brands, but Matrix is that type of technology that's on some of the uppers of shoes. I think it's to make them water resistant.
It also is just more stable.
More stable. Yeah, maybe it's the latter. So I would need to check. But Cetus is that sock and shoe insole company. They made a team co-located in France where they would like meet up to train sometimes. But anyways, that's just a side fun tangent. But Lucille Jamon has been having an incredible year. Go check out her Instagram. She has some great photos on there. She's had 2 wins this year. The last one actually happening just a couple weeks ago at Sobrescobio Sky Race in Spain, right before Halloween weekend.
And then tied for 6th, we have Julia Font and Oihana Cortazar. Julia this year was first at Gorbea-Suzanne. She's also had a couple of podium finishes. She finished second at Calamoro Sky Race. And I think top 5 at Acantilados del Norte. Oihana won the Sky Race Gorges du Tarn that we were just talking about that happened in France earlier this year. She's also been racing a ton at like has pretty much done like all of the races in Spain and finished in the top 5. In 4th place we have Lide Oresterazu. She is currently tied with Karina for 4th. She's had 2 wins this year. The last one being at the Penang Sky Race in Malaysia. And then Karina, who runs for Mexico, Black Diamond and Buff. She's had 2 wins as well with the Cordillera Blanca Sky Race in Peru, and I believe she won the Mexico Sky Race. Correct?
Yes, that
Yeah.
is correct. And Oiana and Karina are very frequent on the Skyrunner World Series. Both of them have won multiple races. Lide, sorry, I don't know as much of her history, but this year she's been absolutely smashing it. And she also competed in a couple Golden Trail World Series as well.
And did really well.
Yeah, and did really well. I also think she ran, I'm just gonna double check really quick. Oh yeah, she ran Zagama. She was 5th at Zagama, which that was an incredible
Insane.
finish. Yeah. Next up in 3rd place, we have Emma Cook Clark. Again, a frequent on the Skyrunner World Series. We'll need to have her on someday because I would love to know more about Emma. But she's a Canadian runner running for Arc'teryx. She's had 2 wins this year. Her last win was at the Saga Cassis Sky Race. And then in 2nd place, currently in the rankings, is Hillary Girardi. She is an American living in France. She represents Black Diamond and Scarpa. She currently has 3 wins. most recently at the Maga Sky Marathon. And then she also won at Trofia Kima. And then she won at Hachkikmon, which we've mentioned a couple of times that a lot of these athletes have been. If you don't know this about Hillary, Hillary is a mountaineering badass. She does have the women's record on Mont Blanc from Chamonix Center to the summit and back. So she like Mont Blanc, like the mountain that we all run around and don't actually go up, she actually went up it. And it's a combination of like running and mountaineering, because you run up to a certain point and then you have potentially like crampons and stuff like that. So super badass. And she also has the course record at Trofia Kima, which is known as one of the most technical like races in the world.
Yep. And then our top female has been pretty much untouchable this entire season. Her name is Anastasia Rubstova. I'm not saying that correctly, but she's from Russia, and she's won all the sky races that she's run this year. She is a mom, and we love that. But I have a feeling, unless something drastic happens, she's probably still our favorite for the final.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that she's just been crushing every sky race she's been doing, and she has the skill that is probably most important for sky running, and that is navigating down really technical terrain quite fast. I think that is truly the key that separates, you winning or podiuming. Is that a word?
It's a word I use, so
Yeah. Podiuming. Okay, you know what I'm saying. Getting top 3 of the race or not, I think is truly in the downhill. And looking at all of these women, Anastasia, from videos I've seen, she crushes it. Hillary, again, Emeka Clark, Karina, Lide, Oyana, they all can navigate that downhill extremely well.
yeah. And I think that she was second at the Sky Masters final last year behind Clementine.
Or I think
She was either second or third.
Sarah won the final last year.
Huh. What am I thinking of?
Maybe you're thinking of like, I'm pretty sure.
That's all right. We'll move past it. Her first win this year was at Sky Race to Mathazines, and like literally has not stopped since then. And that was all the way in May.
Yeah.
Yeah. So looking forward to seeing how she does on this course.
Yes. Any other notable things about this women's race?
Let's talk. We missed our wild card.
Oh, yes. Go
Yes.
talk about her.
So Denisa Dragomir is the only wild card on the men's or women's side that we could find. She's Romanian. She runs for Merrell and Red Bull. She's been a Skyrunner champ in the past, but she was also the world champion at the short trail in not Austria, Thailand in 2022. So obviously very talented athlete. But yeah, I'm pretty sure she's the only wild card we found. And in terms of US athletes, the only US athlete that we have in the final on the women's side is Michelle Merlis. She was 5th at Mediaire, 5th at Grindstone 100K this year, and she was on the Team USA in Thailand for the short trail team that was second. They were second or third. They were on the podium for short trail.
Yeah, second or third. We'd have to relook at the photo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess just like a couple things I want to call out. Spanish women, again, just like dominant. They've kind of dominated almost every series this year. So it was already telling in the March-April timeframe, but it's still showing up now in November. Hillary is American, residing in France. But yeah, otherwise, outside of her, there's only one other US athlete. So, there's no races in the US. Like the closest one is in Canada.
And it's hard to get to.
And it's a hard to get to place.
Yeah, you have to like fly and then drive for a while.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's our women's race. Before we talk about the men, here is one last message from our partners.
Hey everyone, Dani here. Leading up to OCC, one of my biggest concerns was staying healthy and not getting sidelined by any sickness. After all, the last thing you want is months of training thrown out by a cold or a flu. That's where Beekeepers Naturals came in. I've been using their immune boosting products for over a year now, and they've become my secret weapon for keeping my immune system strong during tough training blocks. Honestly, they didn't just help me stay healthy, but they also took away a lot of the stress of worrying about getting sick. Their star ingredient, propolis, is packed with antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals. My personal favorite is the throat spray, but they also have lozenges, syrups, and even options for kids. So if you're looking for a natural way to support your immune system, I highly recommend giving Beekeepers Naturals a try. Use code SUBHUB20 for 20% off any and all of your orders at beekeepersnaturals.com. Now back to the episode. It went Sarah, Karina, Olivia, Clementine for the final
Okay.
register. Yeah. I wonder what race you're thinking of.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm just thinking that Clementine was leading last year. I don't know. Meh.
Yeah. All right. Now the men's race. To get us started, currently in 18th in the overall rankings is Ander Inaria, and he is a Spanish runner, and he is representing
Yuskal Mushing.
Mushin team. Sorry, Ander. I do not know how to say that. Please let me know so I can fix that. He was 6th at Skyrunner. Next up is another Spanish athlete, Dimas Pereira. He runs for A6 Running. He was 7th at Kaiserkorn. In 15th is our very own Morgan Elliott. He currently runs for Merrell. He was top 5 at Mexico, the Mexico Sky Race and Mercantor.
And as of right now, our only U.S. athlete in the top 20. I don't know why I said as of right now. The season is over. He's our only athlete in the top 20. Ranked 14th overall on the men's side is Aitor Blanco from Spain and Team Texantria.
I'm
He was
guessing
ninth.
the X is silent, but I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, Tantria. Ninth at Sky Race Gorges du Tarn this year. Just ahead of him is his teammate Raul Criado from Spain. He was 6th at the Maga Sky Race. And then in 12th, Sebastian Posi from France and the Berks Trail Runners. He was 6th at Hodge Konigman.
And then looking at our top 10, most of the guys are actually here. In 10th place is Rui Ueda. He's a Japanese athlete running for Red Bull. Has done a handful of these races. Oh, maybe not these races actually, but Golden Trail World Series. But he was 2nd at the race in Korea and then 3rd at Kaiserkorn. And then we have Jose Manuel Quispe. He's Peruvian athlete running for Merrell. A lot of Merrell athletes. In 8th place on the overall rankings. He's a farmer from rural Peru. That is a mouthful. In 9th at the Maha Sky Race or Maja. We don't know how to say that race. And then in 7th, we have Daniele Antonioli, Italian runner running for Scarpa. He was 2nd at Sky Race de Mathesines and Hashikong and top 5 at a couple other races.
In 6th, we have Antonio Martinez, Spanish runner. We've interviewed him before. We talk about him a lot on this podcast. He runs for ASICS. He racked up his 3rd podium at OCC this year. He won Lavaredo 50K this year. And in terms of sky running, he was 2nd at Calamoro and 2nd at Gorges du Tarn. In 5th place, we have Gianluca Giano, an Italian runner for Brooks. He's been top 5 at 4 Skyrunner events this year and just won the race in Korea a couple weekends ago. And 4th ranked, we have Manuel Marias from Spain. He's a New Balance athlete, an absolute amazing Skyrunner in his own right. He won Kaiser Krone this year, was 2nd at Cantalados del Norte, 3rd at Sky Race de Mathesines. He had a bad accident at Matterhorn Ultrax, like literally falling off of the trail off the side of a cliff, but he seems to be just fine now.
So scary. And then we have Lorenzo Beltrami. He's an Italian athlete. He runs for Scarpa and Rock Experience. He was the winner of Hachikikmong and third at Two Peaks in South Korea. And then rounding out our podium, we have Luca Del Piero, Italian athlete running for Scarpa, fourth at Zagama, second at Matterhorn Ultras, and recently won the Sobrescoibo Sky Race. And then last but not least, Roberto Del Renzi. We have had him on the pod. If you want to learn more about him, along with Manuel and Antonia, we've had episodes with them. We will link that in our show notes. But he is a Swiss athlete running for Brooks Trail Runners, should be considered in your Troy, considering how many podiums this man has been on this year. But he was fifth at Sierra Zanal, third at Mont Blanc Marathon, 10th overall in the Golden Trail World Series final. He was the Euro champ at the mountain running champions this year in the Classic. And then he also won Acantilados del Norte and Gorges du Tarn of those sky races. Yeah, both of these races are stacked, honestly.
Yeah. No, it's
Like,
going to be really exciting.
this men's side is insane. And then the women's side as well, like it has all of the frequents. Like,
All the usuals are here to play.
yeah. How do
Do
you
we
think
want
this?
to do we
Yeah.
want to do podiums?
Yeah, do it. Do it.
Do it. All right, let's start with the men.
Okay.
Save the women for last. So this is a little bit of a longer race, which makes it interesting, I think.
Yeah.
But I do think that Roberto's probably gonna win. That's my guess. I think that it's kind of a bummer to not see Frederick Trenchant here. I wonder what's going on there. But okay, so I'm gonna go Roberto, Luca, Antonio.
First, second, third.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. I'm going almost the opposite. I think I am. I'm going to say Antonio, Luca, Roberto.
All right.
Antonio, like when he runs longer races, he just seems to have it dialed, like OCC.
Yeah.
He just knows the pace of it. And I
This
don't,
will be one of Roberto's longest races for sure.
yeah, yeah. But honestly, like any of
Could be
them
any
can
of them.
win. Manuel can win. And then every other guy here,
Yeah.
Lorenzo Beltrami as well. So that's just fun. It'd be really cool to see Morgan in the top 10.
Yeah.
And then on the women's side, ooh, I'm gonna go. I think Anastasia. She just says what everything.
Yeah.
Even if this might be one of her longer races, Hillary's gonna be right there, and then I'll say Karina. She tends to do really well in like the longer the race goes.
Yeah. I'm gonna go Anastasia. But because the race looks like a little bit more runnable-ish, I'm gonna go. Shoot. I'm
I
gonna
mean,
go.
sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I was gonna say Julia Font for third. I'm trying to figure out who my second is. It's my second is either Karina or Lide, honestly.
Yeah, that's true. Because Lita has shown she can do a lot of everything,
Yeah,
especially with Zagama.
usually I'd put Julia in second, but she has had a long season.
Yeah, but she is there running already, as we saw on Strava.
And she recently won Gorbea Suzyon, so like,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go Anastasia, Julia, Lide.
Nice. Again, like there's so many people that can win this race,
Yeah.
especially at the end of the year.
I'm leaning towards
And
the Spanish women just because it's also in Spain.
that's a safe call. Because you also have Denisa Dragomir, who's potentially coming in a lot.
Yeah. She
That's,
hasn't raced much this year, so it's hard to tell where she's at.
yeah. Dang. Well, it's the end, guys. So if you are holding on to this last series, you don't have to wait much longer. I don't know if that's a turn of phrase. But it has been a great season with the Skyrunner World Series, and we'll see how the final shakes out. MK and I admittedly are starting to shut it down, but hoping maybe to get a couple more interviews before our end of year podcast. On that note, if you are still listening at this point, if you have any performances that stood out to you this year, send us a message, because we are compiling what we believe are going to be the top performances this year, and also the top athletes for, it's not technically sub ultra because we're going to, grab some of those like 55K results as well. But athletes that, have really showed up this year as some of the best in the world. So if you have any strong opinions there, please send us a message and we'll, give you a little shout out during our end of year episode.
And we will make sure to get this out before Troy opens Trail Runner of the Year, so that you guys can have as much information as possible on the sub ultra athletes that might be on that list as well.
Yes, definitely. But otherwise, consider leaving us a rating, leave a comment in YouTube if you had any favorite races from Skyrunner World Series this year. And don't forget to subscribe to the SubHub headlines when you get a chance.
This has been the SubHub Podcast, brought to you by Free Trail.